Hello, everybody. It's Heather with the Leadership with Heart podcast. And I am so excited today. I'm talking to Mark Setterington, and he was referred to me by Franchise Elevator. And it's one of these things, like, again, I don't know why lately they've been doing a really good job of referring really good people to me. Now, you, my listeners, I also want you to refer people to me. You can think of managers that you love, leaders that you love. Maybe it's your first leader and you're still connected with them. Folks that you think lead with heart, that exhibit that. I want to hear from you too. But in this case, Mark came from this organization, and I really like, there were just topics related to resiliency and community and just helping his people through just kind of this tough time in the pandemic. And I really love that concept. So Mark, that's why you're here. I felt like there was a lot of heart in your business.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad you had me. I can't thank you enough.
So where are you right now in your leadership journey anyway?
I'm still learning, honestly. We've been doing this for several years now, and I'm the CEO and president, but honestly, I'm still learning my job. So what I did is I reached out to one of my mentors from my past, Alan Palmieri, and I'm actually using him as a coach. So he's teaching me how to be me. And the reason that I picked Alan was because everything that he brought to the table was about culture. So it was, like you said earlier, the profits, the business success was a byproduct of the culture that we established in the company that I worked with Alan.
That's awesome. I love to hear folks that bring on coaches and have accountability partners and stuff, because it makes a huge difference on blind spots that we just don't see unless we have that person, right?
It's a fact. You're too close to it in the day to day, and you need someone that you care about and respect that can put you in check, and you don't take it. It's not personal. It's so come on, Mark, what are you thinking, right? And you know that it's coming from a place of caring because the person cares about you.
Yeah, I love that. I always tell people, if you're gonna get an accountability partner, find someone that's not going to throw you underneath the bus, but someone you know is looking out for you as well, and they care about you. So that's a very good point you make. So where does your drive to lead come from? Where did all this greatness, this boil, this desire to achieve something, where did that come from?
I think part of it, I'm a middle kid. So, and I think that I know people say that all the time, but I know that, my sister got away with a lot, my brother got away with a lot. And I always felt like I was going to toe the line, and I was going to listen, and I was going to do the right thing. So I've always been kind of driven for that, and for, kind of making my family proud. And I know that sounds kind of, a little cheesy, but as I've gone through my life and, married, 2 kids, the girls are 20 and 21, help me with the company. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things, and we're doing the right things as a company so that I have a legacy for my family.
I love that. Those are beautiful reasons. And I'm curious to know those that are like, now that you're, building this business and all of that, the folks that report to you, how would they describe you as a leader? What's your style in their words?
Honest, I'm super intense, and to a fault. I'm emotional because I'm super passionate about what we're doing, and it's about. I'm a perfectionist, which is really tough in a restaurant, but I think that what we have is super cool and super special, but only when done right. Right? I don't want to be everyone else. I don't want to be Chipotle. They're great. They're awesome, right? Would you take 1,000 restaurants? Heck yeah. But what I want is, I want people coming in here for more than the food, right? It's an experience. We treat people like family. When you come in, you get a warm welcome. When you leave, you get a fond farewell. We want you thinking of us, when you're thinking about Chipotle. Yeah, you can go and get a $10 burrito, but I'd rather go to Island Fin and visit with my friends, right? And those are the things that I want to see. And that's what my kids would say about me, all my team members, all my franchisees, I think.
That's not a bad thing. I think, you have to have, the emotional, the passion, the fire in your belly, the desire for, for your brand to be upheld. I think those are kind of important, particularly at the phase you're at right now. And I think any phase, to be honest, going forward, because if you think about, when you think about like the McDonald's, the KFCs, like these kind of things, right? Where there are very like very specific brand standards in line. And like when you go, you're like, yep, I'm gonna get that same thing. You go to Chick-fil-A and you're like, you hear this kids, the younger, the teenagers, they're all saying the same thing. You're like, they're talking like they're 25-year-olds or whatever, right? There are standards that they're putting in place. And it's important that we know that, because you have to have the consistency in your brand, whatever that brand, whether it's restaurant or not, whether it's your own leadership brand, whether it's your team and how it shows up inside your organization. You kind of you're responsible for how that brand reveals itself.
That's a fact. It's super important.
So, tell those who are listening right now, this is always like the most interesting part of the interview. Tell us about a time, particularly like maybe when that emotion or that real big drive to like make it work or whatever, like any of that stuff just got out of hand, a specific story. And it is the story that's the most important. It's through the storytelling that we learn. So instead of being kind of generalized about your comments, if you can think of a story where maybe you didn't lead with heart, you didn't show up with emotional intelligence, whatever, inside of the space of leading people, what did that look like? And then what did you do to come out of it, to like just become a little better in how you showed up?
Oh, I can tell you, it was really, really early in my career. I was a kitchen manager at Applebee's, and one of my favorite all-time bosses, Mark Setterington, my director of operations, was in the restaurant. I was working Expo on a Friday night. It was my birthday, and he brought me a bag with a book in it, and the book was called Brutal Bosses. And the fact that Mark came to see me on my birthday in my restaurant and handed me this book. He didn't say a word. He didn't say, hey, Mark, whatever. He handed me this book, told me happy birthday, and he walked away. And I looked at the title of that book, and it again, cheesy, it changed my life, right? Because I was Gordon Ramsay, right? I'm 53. So back when I was a kitchen manager, way back, early 90s, it was a different world, right? And I was not a good person, right? And it would be, Friday night, a grill cook's not keeping up. I'd throw them off the line, tell them to get out of my kitchen, and I'd do it myself, right? I was not a good person. And the fact that Mark took the time and energy to drive an hour and a half to my restaurant, bring me that book, instead of, sitting me down, writing me up, beating me up, whatever, it completely and totally changed my trajectory. And I'm a different person for it. So
taking that time, having those leaders who take that time to pour into you, see the goodness in you and bring it out, even if it's like more buried for most people. And they're there to, like that book, it's like a big, strong nudge, taking that. I think that's awesome, because he could have totally kicked you to the curb. He could have treated you as like you did with the line staff that are there. I mean, he could have done that. And so I appreciate that he made a different choice. Boy, I'd love to interview him too. He sounds like a really nice leader. Caring leader for sure.
Was incredible. Yeah.
And how he impressed that on you. That's amazing. Well, that's what I tell people all the time. It's like caring leaders can change lives, can leave that legacy of care that kind of leaves an imprint on someone's mind and changes who they are. And that's what happened in your case.
It's a fact. And I think I've carried that with me. I mean, this was, Lord, 30 years ago, right?
Wow.
And I carry it with me. And I share that with young managers. I share it with franchisees. I share it with everybody, because I want them to learn from, my mistakes and where I have fallen down. So, because I want them to be successful. So that's, I think, the best part about what we do in restaurants. It's not, not serving food or whatever. It's, we really get to impress and impact a lot of lives. So
I think that's awesome. That extended handprint, just knowing that it goes beyond just either just the concept, or I love the way it's expansive, the way you're thinking bigger. It's hard. It's sometimes, if you're not a quote unquote, like a nonprofit, for example, where you're mission driven, like everything you do has to do with this like mission because it's a nonprofit, right? And I love to hear businesses that are profitable, franchises that are profitable, and they're talking in a mission sense. And so that's what I love when you're talking about this idea of family and again, taking care of people. It's just so critical when we're looking at leadership and business, and we need to have the connection there for sure. I appreciate that so much. So now is the time where you get to turn the tables on me and ask me a question. Knowing that obviously my space is employee loyalty, retention, leadership, listening. What might be a question you would ask me and kind of turn into the host at this point?
I would say for you, when you're interviewing all of these leaders with heart, what do you find is a common thread or a common trait between a lot of these people that you've interviewed?
Well, interestingly enough, I wrote a book about that. It's called The Art of Caring Leadership. And
That was a softball. There we go.
Yeah, you're right there. You literally, you go get my book on Amazon, The Art of Caring Leadership. And in there, I interviewed, I'm over 200 interviews now, but I took about 80 of those interviews and I consolidated them into kind of categories and came up with about 9 behaviors. And I took that and I reconcile it against about 30,000 employee surveys that I have read personally over the years, and said, okay, let's sniff test what employees want and the leaders that exhibit those behaviors, and what do those behaviors look like. And that's how we came up with those 9 behaviors. And so some of them are, listening to your people, creating connections, making people feel important, empowering your people, helping them take risks in calculated ways. So there's, very, and in there, I talk, there's storytelling, there's some of the interview stories I learned from the leaders I talked to, and then some very tactical things that the people recalled for me that they did that really did pay off in droves to keep people endeared to them, keep really and retain good talent. And right now with this whole great resignation, retention, recruitment is a huge issue. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I would say, yep, go get it. The Art of Caring Leadership. Anybody who's listening, obviously you probably already know, but do that as well. And you will see in there, it's really good. People are using it as like a guidebook. They're highlighting it. They're doing all kinds of things there, but it doesn't, funny enough, I mean, money is an issue when they can't survive. So you need to make sure that like they're having a standing or living that's there, but it's not about money about 90% of the time. And I think when leaders get that and they know that they can control that, it makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
So
you
for those
pay
who
people 15, go ahead.
No, you go.
I'm just saying, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're paying $15 an hour or $20 an hour, but you're not treating your people like, people, whatever, I'll go down the street.
Exactly. They want to go to a place where they feel like they're having meaningful work, where people are hearing them, where they feel like they're part of something bigger and meaningful. And any organization that can accomplish that is going to keep people longer, period. It's just going to happen. So,
yep.
So for those who are listening now, I am leave them with a couple pearls of wisdom. Like if they, they need some oomph to get to the week. They want some leadership nuggets. What might be a couple pearls of wisdom you'd leave them with?
I think that everything comes down to respect, right? And we have a sign that hangs in the restaurant that says no friends, just family, ohana. And they're not just words. From the team members to our guests to our vendor partners. One of the things that really helped us through the pandemic was we stuck to our guns, right? We still treated everybody with respect. We never used pandemic as an excuse. We didn't reduce our hours. When we were only able to be open for takeout and delivery, we were open for takeout and delivery from 11 to 9. We stuck to our guns. We held our principles. And it was the same thing with everything. I see restaurants and guests in restaurants allowing restaurants to use the pandemic and being short-staffed as an excuse for poor food or poor service, right? You are choosing to spend your money in that restaurant. I owe you a good meal and great service, right? It's not the pandemic, right? If you can't keep up with demand or you can't give the kind of food that I'm paying for, then you shouldn't be open. And I hate saying that. I'm a small business guy too, but there's no excuses. You do what you say and you say what you do.
Wow. I think that's amazing. The no excuses mentality is critical. Because I kind of feel like I did an article on this just recently, but it was like I was driving in with my youngest son in the car, and he was talking about, well, I'm going to be a professional soccer player, but and he had all these buts in there, and I'm like, that sounds like you're making a lot of excuses, and that's kind of what we do. I mean, all of us will kind of justify why we can't do certain things, and I love the fact that you kind of refocus us on in life, business and life, we're making choices. We're making a series of choices, and we control those, and we have influence over the choices we make. And in this case, it's like, no, I want to show up this way. I want to show up as a better leader. I want to show up as a better owner. I want to show up as a better business, to make sure that our customers are feeling a certain way. And so I love that pearl of wisdom of, listen, everybody, leaders of the heart know that we make choices every day. They aren't always easy, but we always know that what the right one is, right?
That's a fact.
I love it. Oh my gosh. For those who are listening, if you have gotten some really good nuggets by listening to my conversation with Mark, please do make sure you share this far and wide. That's how more leaders find out about this stuff. They get the oomph, the extra oomph they need in their day to kind of keep forward and being a better leader. And don't forget to write that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That's how more leaders find out. That algorithm moves us up, and we're already one of the top 100 management podcasts in the world. So it helps us go further and further up that poll, right? So go do that. Mark, this has been great. I'm inspired. I want to come to your restaurant now.
You're always welcome. Thank you for having me on.
And thanks everybody for listening to the Leadership of the Heart podcast. Be well.